I just would look at myself and hate myself. I would look in the mirror and just get angry at myself for, ruining my lifelong dream. I'm Hannah. I grew up in San Diego. I've been living in San Francisco for the last 4 years. When I was a kid, I was very, very skinny. My nickname was Skinny Minnie or Twiggy. I was just 80 pounds soaking wet. And I wanted to be a fashion designer. I would obsessively watch Project Runway, runway shows, anything to do with fashion design, really. And, as a kid, I was tiny, and I was like, oh, perfect. I can design all these clothes, and I can wear them. And as I got older, I definitely filled out a little bit more, and it really just discouraged me from wanting to pursue fashion because at the time it was still very, very not as body inclusive. Once I was like 15, 16, I started to develop a bit more, and the designs I made, were for the models. And I was like, well, if I can't fit into those because I all of a sudden had like D cups, I was very discouraged from it. So I always hated that. I was always very insecure about my chest. Having big boobs was always very touchy subject for me. I was always very resentful of it because I, at the time, blamed my body for ruining my fashion design dreams, which, isn't really accurate. It was definitely a mental thing, but it played into it a lot. So I was always very resentful of my body and seeing things in the media just reminding me that fashion is thin, and if you have the womanly curves, then accentuate them, which I never wanted to do. I always just wished to have that high fashion model body. There were 2 moments that really stood out to me in the past where I came to realize that I didn't want to do fashion design anymore, or that I was stopping myself from doing it. And one was when I got a dress form that I could, pin my clothes on, pin my dresses on as I'm making them. And it was a, more or less standard size. I don't remember the measurements of it, but it wasn't, it wasn't completely flat. But as my chest got bigger than that, it became very disheartening because, there was no going back from that. Once I had D cups and then double Ds and then, just so on and so forth. That was the dress form I had, and that was what I made clothes on. So if I couldn't fit into that, then what was I doing with it? In my junior year, I made my prom dress, and I was so just stuck in this mental track of, if I make the clothes smaller, then maybe I can just be smaller. And I remember I had to design the top half of my dress. I had to remake it probably 4 times because I just kept making it too small because I was determined to have it be perfect for this slim, smaller chested model that I wasn't. And I kept trying to squeeze double Ds into a dress top that was for a B cup, and that was when I realized I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I would look in the mirror and just get angry at myself for, ruining my lifelong dream by existing, by growing as a person, physically, mentally. I wasn't mentally strong enough to move past that physical blockade. It never really occurred to me to design things that would just fit the body that I had because it wasn't the fashion look. Fashion week that happens across the world, New York, Milan, Paris, they are still very stuck in the stereotypical runway model look where it's, you're 5'8", super thin. I don't think I've ever really seen pictures of, models wearing avant-garde high fashion gowns that have triple Ds or Fs or, whatever bra size I am. And I think if I had seen that as a kid, seen, different bodies on the runway, it definitely would have been different. Looking back, it's all fun to speculate and think about just where I might have been, but I wouldn't change anything. I would change how I talked to myself back then. Probably would have been a lot more body positive going into my young adulthood in that case, but I'm happy with where I am now. I run a magazine, a literature and arts magazine. I'm not doing fashion design, but I am still, big in the art community, and I do still design. I still do drawings. I actually have my sewing machine out right now on the floor next to me, because I was sewing earlier. It's a passion, but it doesn't have to be my career, and I've become a lot happier with that. We all have our little, voice in our head saying oh, you're not skinny enough, or you're not tall enough, or what have you. But fuck them. It really is just a matter of coming into who you are. It sounds so easy to just say learn to love yourself. Well, at least just learn to coexist with yourself first. It's not going to get you anywhere fighting yourself like that. It's just going to make you look back into the past and think, wow, I was so unhappy, or I could have done so much more if I had just been more okay with myself. And yeah, you can't go back and change things, but there's still today.